I manage our server templates, write images, also configuration management, API, and some other new products that we have coming. And we're here to talk today about managing Puppet in the cloud, and specifically why RightScale and Puppet work well together, and how doing Puppet with RightScale is simple and valuable. So we're going to touch on a few points today. The first one is, why would you want to run Puppet inside of RightScale? What value does RightScale provide on top of Puppet? The second one is how you would run Puppet inside of RightScale if you wanted to. And lastly, we'll look at what is RightScale doing to enhance our Puppet offering in the future. So first, why run Puppet in RightScale? Can I just show of hands there? Who runs Puppet right now in their infrastructure? One. All right, two. So Puppet is a configuration management system like Chef, helps you configure your instances, configure your cloud nodes. A lot of people then, when they have Puppet or Chef, they say, well, what do I need RightScale for? What does RightScale provide on top of that functionality? And really it boils down to two major things that RightScale provides on top of Puppet. One is that we provide a single pane of glass to manage your cloud application throughout its lifecycle. So Puppet's really good at configuring your nodes when you want them configured. It's not as good at maintaining and operating and managing them throughout the lifecycle. I was, in fact, talking to one of our customers last night at the mixer, and he said, you know, we love Puppet. We're never probably going to move away from Puppet. We're used to it now. We like what it does. But we have a problem, and we try and push code deployments, code updates out to our servers, and we're using Puppet to do it, and it doesn't work very well. So they're finding gaps in some of the management capabilities when you try to manage the life cycle of your application. So that's one thing RightScale helps you with, is managing your cloud application throughout its entire life cycle. Also, when you run the cloud, you come to find that you need more than just your application. Now that your servers are running somewhere else that you don't have control over, you need to monitor them. You want to know if something happens. You need to be alerted if something happens. There's all these other things that you need in the cloud when you're running an application. And RightScale provides a lot of those things out of the box, and you don't have to worry about it. You don't have to add more tools. You don't have to integrate with other systems. It's all done through RightScale with one API. All the tools are there. So we're going to go ahead and walk through what some of those tools are, some of the benefits that RightScale provides on top of Puppet. So if you're running Puppet now and you run your Puppet nodes inside of RightScale, you're going to get all these benefits. And one of those is automating your cloud application. And that means a lot of different things. One is monitoring. So all your system resources are monitored through RightScale. You can create dashboards. You can create different kinds of graphs. You can monitor all kinds of different parameters depending on what your application needs and how adamant you want to be about it staying up. And then using those monitors, you can set up alerts. Alerts can go to email. You can send them to your favorite alerting service. All these capabilities are out of the box with RightScale. We also provide auto-scaling, which some clouds have and some don't. We support auto-scaling on all clouds because we have it in our feature set. When you want to integrate with your system, so now you're running your application in the cloud, you've automated it with Puppet, you're monitoring it using RightScale. Now that it's running in the cloud, you want to integrate that with some of your systems in-house. Maybe you have a ticketing system you want to integrate with. Maybe there's some other workflow that you want to integrate with. With RightScale, one API and you get that benefit. You don't have to integrate with every cloud provider that you're using or every different service that you're using. All the features that we provide are available in one API. And then lastly on the automation front is orchestrating large events or automation across deployments, across servers. First of all, we have our single API that allows you to do that. And we're also introducing a new product later this year. It's currently in private beta called Cloudflow. There's a presentation on it tomorrow afternoon if you're interested. You can also see me if you want to partake in the private beta. But that's going to help you automate across your servers and across your deployments. So an example here might be the code deployment that I was talking with the customer about last night. Maybe when you deploy code and you've got 20 servers running, you don't want to dump all that code to all 20 servers at the same time. You want to take a handful of servers offline, disconnect them from the load balancer, wait until maybe the sessions on those servers run out, disconnect them, update the code, run some kind of test, make sure everything's running, reconnect it to the load balancer. And you want to do that in a logical way. You want to do 5 at a time, 4 at a time, whatever you want to do, you can do that using Cloudflow and make sure that it's matching the workflow that you need to automate your cloud application. So that's one of the benefits that RightScale provides on top of Puppet. The second one is organizing your deployments. So many of us that run in the cloud have tens, dozens, sometimes hundreds of servers running in the cloud. It's sometimes very hard to keep track of where all these things are, to organize them in a way that makes sense. And again, you get that with RightScale out of the box using deployments. You can organize deployments in multiple ways. We've seen people do it basically what your use case is. Do you want to organize your deployments based on the application? Maybe based on the type of server. So you have your application servers over here, your databases over there. We see a lot of customers that use different types of environments. So they'll have a production deployment, they'll have a QA deployment, they'll have a dev deployment. And with all that deployment, you get deployment level settings, deployment level monitoring. So you can set up different monitors for, say, a QA deployment than you would for a production deployment. Same thing with alerts. And you get some cost benefit there too. You can report back on what's going on in each deployment. Again, built into RightScale, if you launch Puppet nodes inside of RightScale, you specify the deployment and you will get this organization out of the box. The third thing that RightScale provides is user and permissions management. So with RightScale, you can create user accounts with role-based permissions. You can have some users that are allowed to do some things, create server templates, launch servers, log into servers. We also provide managed SSH. So all servers launched through RightScale get the keys laid down of the users that have access to that server, and the users can log into that server and they'll be logging in as themselves. The keys are already there. And coming soon, we're going to be integrating with AWS IAM and also having RightScale, native in RightScale, more granular permissions on deployments and servers and other instances inside of RightScale. So you can actually get more granular on your permissions within the RightScale framework no matter what cloud you're running on. And then the last thing I'm going to talk about in terms of the value that RightScale provides is the cost forecasting and detailed reporting. So cost forecasting is something new that we're doing with Plan for Cloud. Michael touched on it earlier this morning. But you can forecast your cloud costs based on historical data, based on actual information about what you've been running in the past. You can put in scenarios into that tool and say, well, I think we're going to grow at 20%. I think I'm going to have to use more storage in this month or that month, or December's a really busy month for our website because we're e-commerce, and so we're going to bump up our usage and get an idea of what it's going to cost. You can play out different scenarios. What if I use Cloud X versus Cloud Y, or this service versus that service, or this instance type versus that instance type, or 3 of these versus 1 of those? You can do all of that inside of RightScale. And then also you get the reporting. So that's forecasting, then you also get reporting, so what actually happened. And you can customize that reporting based on your needs. You can report based on cloud. You can tag servers and run reports based on certain tags of servers. You can run based on deployment. Say, well, how much is the QA deployment costing me? How much is production costing? How much did production on Cloud X cost me last year? And all those reports are available in a format that you can then export and bring into whatever accounting system that you need. Provide it to your accounting folks so that they have the information at their fingertips. You can use that to enable things like chargeback within your organization. So those are some of the benefits that RightScale provides on top of Puppet. So again, if you run Puppet now to configure your nodes and you launch them inside of RightScale, you're going to get all these benefits out of the box. So let's say you want to do that and you want to run Puppet in RightScale. How would you do that? There's an answer now about how you would do it now, and then we're going to talk in a few minutes about how you'll be able to do it in the future. But first, let's go through how you would do it now. First of all, there are people doing this. Some of our biggest customers are running Puppet to configure all their instances inside of RightScale. These are some of them. Obviously, Zynga is a massive online gaming company, and all of their instances inside of RightScale are running Puppet. Next door, we're actually going to see the content. These next few slides is from the Next Door production site. Matt Wise, who put this together, wasn't able to present this year, but he allowed us to borrow his slides so we can show you what it looks like. And basically it boils down to just a few steps to get started with using Puppet. So Puppet configures your nodes, and as you know, RightScale does configuration management too. We have Write scripts. If you were here for the last session around server templates that Tim and Carrie gave, it's all about how do I configure my instances. Well, you can do that with RightScale, but you don't have to. You can use Puppet to do that if you want. And all you have to do is set up a light framework inside of RightScale. And that consists of creating a Puppet client server template. So you create a server template that has the basic Puppet configuration in it. Create a new deployment for where you want your Puppet servers to run. Launch your servers, let Puppet configure them, and now you're running. You have a full Puppet environment running inside of RightScale with all the benefits I talked about in the last few minutes. So what does creating a Puppet client server template look like? All right, it's not too illegible. basically it boils down to adding one script to your boot scripts. And the way that Nextdoor did this was they have a script there, it's the second from the bottom. It says puppetize host. And they run one script inside of RightScale in our server template that configures all the Puppet information, connects to the Puppet master, starts downloading all the information it needs to configure that instance. And that's it. That's really all you need. We're handing off configuration management of the instances from RightScale, and we're giving it to Puppet in this case. Now, we still do set up some things here. You'll see we still set up monitoring inside of RightScale. We set up some cloud-specific stuff using RightScale's configuration management, but that's to provide the value from before. You're letting Puppet configure your applications and your services and packages and all of those things. So what does that puppetize host script look like? There are two basic parts to it. So that's not very legible, but there are two parts. One part is installing Puppet itself, and that's what this block of code does. Checks which architecture you're running on, and then installs Puppet. Pretty straightforward, but that's step one. And then step two is then you run Puppet. So you install it and you run it. Now with Write scripts and RightScale, all of these variables here, all of the capital variables up there are all inputs. So as you go to run this, and we'll see this in a minute, you'll have various inputs that allow you to configure that Puppet instance. But all we're really doing on this is installing Puppet and running it. So this is, again, this is the Nextdoor configuration here. They have a development server template and a production server template. Both of those are Puppet. They both run Puppet. They also run a Puppet master, which we're not going to get into in this session, but it's something that can be done inside of RightScale as well. And to launch these servers, for those of you that may not be familiar with RightScale or launching servers in RightScale, it's fairly simple. Once you have that environment set up to install and run Puppet, you simply pick the server template you want. You set some specific information about the cloud you want to run on. And then here are the inputs. And if you look on the left there, that's where the Puppet stuff comes in. And this is almost a bare bones, the minimum you would need to run Puppet inside of RightScale. And those scripts need this information. So we're telling at the bottom there, we're telling what Puppet server do we want to talk to, a key, certificate, that kind of information up top there. The way that they did it, they have a base class. So that's the base class that this Puppet node is going to get configured at. They also use Puppet environment. So they can specify different environments that they already have configured in Puppet. And they did additional facts. So the way that they run this is they can put additional facts in there. And when they run the script, Puppet will see all those facts. So you can think about some different ways you might use these. For example, the Puppet environment, they use deployments as their environments. So they were able to set an input at the deployment level and say production or test or QA at the deployment level, and every server that runs Puppet inside that deployment gets that environment set automatically. They also had, for the base class, they have a set of predefined classes. So they have, I think, a dozen or so predefined classes. So when you go to run one of these servers, you just pick which class you want to run and you launch. You can also override it if you want to do a different one that they didn't make available. And then all the additional facts are laid down right on the instance and are available to Puppet when you run Puppet. There are also other inputs on the server. These are cloud-specific inputs or other kinds of inputs, but really the ones on the left there are all you need to get going with Puppet, to have Puppet manage this instance for you. And then this is what their Puppet client looks like when it runs. You can see in the upper right there that's the boot sequence we went through. We went booting, enabled login, and then they ran the puppetize host script. And once they did that, you can see here, these are some of the custom facts that they put in on that last screen on the custom input for facts. So again, once you do that, you run that script, Factor knows all that information is available to it. So that's an example of how to run Puppet in RightScale. It is pretty straightforward. This one script you need to install and run Puppet, handful of inputs, and then Puppet is managing your node, the configuration of your node inside of RightScale. So as we look forward, and we want to look at what RightScale is going to do with Puppet moving forward, we've gotten a lot of feedback about Puppet. Obviously, for those of you that know RightScale well, you know that we don't have an integrated solution right now in terms of our configuration management system. But I did want to talk about some things that we are doing because we know that Puppet is a very popular configuration management tool that a lot of people are using. So we're doing multiple things on this front. The first one is that server template I just described that the Nextdoor team put together and how you could put one together yourself right now. We're actually building one right now ourselves from our engineering team with Carrie and Tim's team. They're building that right now, and it will be available in the marketplace hopefully in a month or two. That's basically going to do what we just saw. It's going to have all those inputs available. Once you have this in the marketplace, this allows you to just import the server template from the marketplace, fill in a couple of inputs about your Puppet master and what class you want, and run. And again, Puppet master will be configuring the node for you, but you'll be running it inside of RightScale. These are going to work with any existing Puppet master. So whatever solution you're using now will work with the server template. The inputs on the server template will be kind of common configuration inputs. So obviously we need to know about who your Puppet master is, where it is, the node name, the environment information, and then any custom facts like we just saw. And all of those will be available by default in this input. So basically that server template we just walked through, we're producing now. When that's available, it's going to be fully supported from RightScale Engineering. It'll be updated, images updated every 2 months on our release cycle, something that you can use and you can call support and get full support on. If there are bugs, the engineering team fixes it, all that stuff. So that's the first step we're taking in trying to embrace Puppet more tightly into our ecosystem. On the same lines, but different, is Puppet Master Server Template. So obviously, Puppet is a client-server kind of a thing, and the client-server template is good if you're already running Puppet, but we also want to enable you to run Puppet Master inside of RightScale. As we've been talking to customers that run Puppet, we've been learning quite a bit about some of the headaches people experience, some of the benefits or some of the features they would like to see in a Puppet Master running inside of RightScale, and these are some of them. We will support enterprise or open source depending on what your relationship with Puppet Labs is. Built into the server template will be backup and recovery for DR purposes. So the Puppet Master will automatically do volume backups and secondary backups to S3. If it goes down in the cloud, you can bring it right back up. We're also looking at making it scalable. So we know that from talking to customers that one of the issues with Puppet Master is that the Puppet Master is responsible for deciding how each node needs to be configured. And the way that works basically is the nodes call up to Puppet Master and say, hey, here's who I am and how I look right now. And the Puppet Master crunches a bunch of information to figure out if any changes need to be made. When it does crunch that data, it can take up some CPU, especially you have a lot of nodes that are all trying to talk to Puppet Master at the same time. So we're looking at ways to make that scalable and build in monitors and alerting on that so that we can scale it when needed. And then we're also looking at if you're running Puppet Master and your nodes inside of RightScale, having ways to do automatic node verification and registration so that you don't have to worry about all this certificate signing and authorization and stuff. And then we have some future things that we're looking at now. These are all under consideration. They're all things that we're exploring as we continue to talk to more and more customers that are using Puppet. So really love to hear your feedback today and moving forward. If any of you use Puppet extensively, I'd love to get on a call with you and go through your detailed use case. But these are some of the things we're looking at. Using tagging to configure Puppet facts. So RightScale has a tagging infrastructure. You can tag servers, you can tag deployments. Those tags are used then across RightScale. They can be used in reporting, they can be used in the API for automation. And we're looking at how do we incorporate that tagging system into Puppet. So we lay down those tags as facts, or we could use a tag to express what kind of node this is. So we're looking at different ways of doing that. We also want to take advantage of the newly released external facts that Puppet just put out, I think the last release. Right now, RightScale hasn't laid down any specific information on the instance, but we have a bunch of information about this instance just because you're running inside of RightScale. And we have the ability to lay all that down on the instance as a Puppet external fact file. And then again, your Puppet code can take advantage of all that information coming directly from the RightScale platform. The third thing on here is Puppet Master Connector. For any of you that will be in the Chef talk later today, we're going to go into a little bit of detail about what a Chef server connector is. And this is basically the equivalent for Puppet Master Connector. And it boils down to using RightScale to configure Puppet, but then using Puppet to manage your nodes. So if you really want to use Puppet and Puppet Master, we don't want to prevent you from doing that, but we want to get you all the benefit of the RightScale platform, all the inputs and the deployments and all those things. And so what we're looking at here is using the RightScale platform to actually send configuration information to your Puppet Master, and then let all your nodes that want to run Puppet actually use that Puppet Master to configure themselves. And then really it's all about what our customers and what our users want. So again, as you guys are using Puppet in the platform, as you guys are using RightScale and learning what is there, what is not there, what might be better, we'd love to have as many conversations as we can and really learn it and make a really good product there around Puppet and RightScale. So we talked about the value that RightScale provides on top of Puppet and why you do want to run Puppet inside of RightScale. We talked about how you can do that right now, and we went through what's coming in RightScale around Puppet, and that's all I have for today. So I'd love to take questions from you guys and learn more about what your use cases are. Questions? Answers? Yes. So the question was, if you have feedback, how do you get it to us? There are multiple ways. One is to find one of us and come talk to us, or get on the phone, or send us an email. We also have a feedback forum, feedback.rightscale.com. It's a community forum for submitting feedback and voting on features and things, so please take advantage of that. We also have our user forums you can go on and get support if you want. So there are multiple ways to get us feedback. For those that are using Puppet now, we'd love to talk with you more. For those of you that are considering using Puppet, I'd love to talk to you a little bit and understand what you're looking at, what you're trying to do, and why you might want to use Puppet, or how you're trying to make the decision between Puppet and some of the other technologies that are out there. So there are multiple ways to get us feedback. Thank you. Any other questions? All right, well, early lunch, I suppose. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.